Greetings, it's Valerie here. Good afternoon, a very good afternoon to you. I've just had lunch out. We sat in the shopping mall car park while we ate some takeaway. This seems to be the new way to eat out these days. I hope you are keeping very well. Over here in Sydney, Australia, it is raining where I am. It is indeed raining. And I'm loving the sound of the rain and just a feeling of moisture in the air. So recently, I've been noticing dialogue about when we get back to normal, when we go back to things after COVID-19. And I'm really starting to stop and wonder whether that is actually a truism and whether or not it's a helpful thing for us to be thinking about that we will go back to normal. I think there's a hope, and I certainly understand that some of the difficulties that we are experiencing right now and probably the inconveniences and the sparse and the scarcity of what we have at the moment will disappear. Those of us who have children at home, those of us who live by ourselves, look, these are not fun times for us. And so, yes, we want a certain degree of normality to return. However, for the most part, I wonder whether there is actually a need for us to, here's an a painful word to hear at times, whether we need to accept that there isn't really a going back. Things have changed. People are questioning, even things like I was at the post office the other day, and the postie was, well, not the postie, but the staff at the post office were actually talking about how this whole experience has radically changed their ideas of their work and their job. We're questioning about how we're shopping. We're questioning about, we've been able to do things like this. Will we go back? And then there's a bunch of stuff that we just really discovered that we don't like. We're so happy that we got rid of some of that stuff. And profoundly, our healthcare system has been really taxed. And, are we really, it's a little bit like after you get pregnant and you have stretch marks, sorry, TMI, but then you think, will they ever go back to normal? Well, not really. Once you've expanded that way, you never quite go back to the way you are. Just putting it out there. And I wonder whether we could have a false hope if we believe and if we cling on to a sense of certainty that things will be back to normal. Most of the time, when human beings go through adverse situations that really challenge their worldview and rock their world on an axis, you get, I guess, a couple of reactions. One is you can have a traumatic reaction, and there's absolutely, that can happen. For some of us who've got vulnerabilities in our past, where we've been exposed to certain trauma, where we've actually really encountered to the ground level helplessness and hopelessness through this period, we may develop post-traumatic stress reaction. Some of us are going to be somewhat neutral about things because by and large, this may have been the way that we have lived. There are some of us who live in very rural areas or remote areas, and this is kind of like how we have lived, so we may be neutral about it. And then there are going to be some of us who have done an audit of what we've gone through and will come out of this with a sense of perspective, a different perspective. We may actually look at the relationships that we have. We may look at the way that we've done things. We may look at new opportunities that have come up and think, well, actually, this is probably not a bad thing. This has helped me to discover things about myself, my family, my relationships, the way that I do work, what I find to be joyful in my work, and what I've actually found to be really stressful in my work. Some of us are rediscovering that. And so when we all get back together, if you think about this, as individuals, we're having these experiences, and then we're going to come back. We may have to accept, and I think we need to accept, the very real possibility that when we get back together at school, at work, at staff meetings, at religious gatherings, that we may all come with that different perspective, and we may, when we start communicating, may actually create the new normal when we get back together, which could be very different. Some of the readings that I've been doing, just trying to get my head around what do we as human beings tend to show and need during this time. would suggest that certain personality characteristics would be really great for us to think about. So particularly being adaptable, being flexible, being open to new possibilities and being open to new experiences, probably going to be an important thing for us to intentionally challenge ourselves on, to say that just for today, I can accept what today looks like. I can also accept that the way things are at the moment may be how it will be for the next weeks, months. And making peace with that, really making peace with that, so that we're not pushing ourselves to expect more, hope more, and then be met by frustration and disappointment. So, will we go back to normal? Probably not. Will some of the rhythms and routines go back to looking normal? Yeah. How we do those things, how school will be done, will we continue to have meetings via Zoom so that we can stay in our jammies down the bottom? Maybe. Is that such a bad thing? Possibly not. I'm just being playful there, but I think, I'm hoping you get the gist of what I'm saying. Radical acceptance, being able to accept the reality for what it looks like right now, as well as staying open to the possibility that some of these elements may just continue, particularly if they've been helpful, they've been useful, and they've led to some growth. Alrighty, I shall leave you with that. Take care, everybody.